Welcome back to the channel. Racerx here, and today is Memorial Day. So I want to start off this video by telling everybody out there, obviously, happy Memorial Day. A huge shout out to all of our men and women in the armed forces, the people that keep us safe day in and day out, but also a huge shout out to all of our first responders, our police officers, our firefighters, everybody out there that makes a difference in this country. We absolutely need you guys. So a very happy Memorial Day to everybody out there. And today's video, in kind of commemoration of this, I'm going to give you my top 5 cars that I've ever reviewed, my very favorite cars I've ever had a chance to review. I've got some honorable mentions in there as well, but I've reviewed so many cars for you guys. I mean, like hundreds of them over the course of the past 3.5 years. And today I'm going to give you my top 5 list. So without any further ado, here we go. So for the purposes of this particular video, I'm not going to include my own cars in this. So obviously my 1,000+ horsepower Hellcat, my 1,000+ horsepower Mustang, the STI, the Scat Pack, none of that stuff. Those were all my own personal cars. So it doesn't really count in this. This is all about cars that I've had a chance to review for you guys. As I've mentioned, lots of cars out there, and it's not necessarily the cars that are just the fastest. It's all about the cars that I just literally like driving the most, I had the most enjoyment out of, and I love reviewing really more than any of the other cars on my list. So before I even kind of get into it, I want to kind of start by just kind of giving you my honorable mentions, cars that I really love driving that did not make the list. It is just a little bit too windy out here today. I think I'm actually going to go back to the car so you can actually hear what I'm talking about. Head on back. So I had to work pretty hard to narrow this down. Obviously, with hundreds of cars that I've reviewed on this channel, everything from just little pocket rockets all the way up to exotics, there's been a lot of cars that I've really enjoyed driving. I thought this would be a ton of fun to own. So I'm just going to go ahead and jump into some cars that I absolutely loved, but still did not quite make my list. First, the Shelby Gt500. I absolutely love this car. Super well-rounded car, American muscle, 760 horsepower. I mean, they just look great, and it's just a really great all-around car. It just performs extremely well and is a ton of fun to drive. The low-end punch on this thing is really, really nice. Listen to it. Oh my goodness, it sounds good. So there is some kind of a button down factor to this that I actually really do like. It doesn't feel like a race car. The next one is the Aston Martin Vantage. Yes, the British supercar. It just screams James Bond. I loved driving this car. The sound that it made, just the look of it, all the unique features that it had. A really neat car. Not a cheap car, but a very fun car to drive indeed. Even the turn-in on this, it really is quick and snappy. You would think that this car makes a lot more than 503 horsepower. It definitely feels it. And imagine with downpipes and a tune on something like this, oh man, the sky is the limit. Super, super quick. Let's get a downshift in. Listen to it. Oh yes. Next one on my list, the Nissan GT-R, Godzilla itself. It still didn't quite make my list. We're talking about a Turbo 6 that just breathes fire, all-wheel drive, and man, what a fantastic transmission in this vehicle. It's a very advanced all-wheel drive system that keeps that thing just incredibly fast. It punches way above its weight. It feels like a 700 horsepower car all day long, and of course we know modified, they are extremely formidable, but I do love the Nissan GT-R. But this thing actually has some nice manners for a car that really has the ability to feel like it's trying to, suck your eyeballs to the back of your head. Obviously, the rock star of the GT-R is this engine and this all-wheel drive system, because just listen to it. There we go. Oh, man. Oh, wow. How can you not smile when you drive a GT-R? They are just so much fun. The next one on my list is a car that I know a lot of you love. It is the Challenger Super Stock. And a lot of people thought maybe that should have made my top list. It actually didn't, but I do love that car. It's basically like a demon, but it has just a little bit more street manners, so you could daily this thing and it would still be great. We know the Jailbreak has the same amount of horsepower, but you don't get quite as many drag race goodies. So for somebody like me, the Challenger Super Stock really does hit kind of a sweet spot. When I go to accelerate in it, ooh, performance. This is a stickier tire with a bigger sidewall, so it doesn't feel like this one wants to spin quite as readily. But I will say that, gosh, this thing feels amazing when you're driving it. Listen to it. Next one on my list, the Gen 5 Viper. You guys you knew this was going to be on there somewhere and made my honorable mentions list. It doesn't drive all that fantastic, but it is just an iconic car for me. It looks absolutely amazing. It just doesn't look like anything else on the road. A true American icon, the Dodge Viper, the 5th gen. What a fantastic car. When you see one of these things on the road, you can tell just by looking at it that it means business. In my opinion, this is the best version of the Viper. When you actually go to put the pedal down on this, it makes a melodious sound. Listen to the V10 in this. Oh man, it's hard to replicate that sound. The next one on my list is the Toyota Supra, of all things. This one might catch a lot of people off guard, but I do love the Toyota Supra. It drives really nice. It actually really surprised me just how nice the Toyota Supra was to drive. Extremely darty, extremely responsive, just a small, overall fun car to drive. It's kind of like driving a Miata on steroids. And the looks might take a little getting used to, but I really do enjoy the Toyota Supra. You know, the shifts in this thing, they feel really good, but the turbo in this thing is really alive. I mean, you can really hear all the turbo noises in this. You know, on turn in and turn out, it's very responsive. This thing is doing all sorts of different noises and stuff. It just feels very alive when you're driving it. And I wasn't expecting it to be as lively as it is. I'm pleasantly surprised with the Supra. The next one on my list may not shock a lot of people, but it is definitely worth mentioning. Would I own one? It's kind of hard to say, but you have to mention it. It is always in the conversation, and I talk about it a lot. It is Tesla's Model S Plaid. And yes, I realize it may not sound all, crazy, and it may not sound great, but when you talk about straight line performance, you cannot ignore just how ridiculously insane fast the Model S Plaid is. And it kind of set a new benchmark in the automotive world. I've done several videos on it, and it is so fast it will literally give you a headache. And there's no spin, no fanfare, but this list would not be complete, at least unless I mentioned the Model S Plaid. What an insane car that is. This makes 1,020 horsepower. Once again, the steering wheel, unlike anything else I have ever driven. Oh my gosh, this thing is otherworldly. I barely even hit the gas pedal. Oh my gosh. Whoa. Holy crap. Next one on my list is actually a car you may not really realize would be on my list, but it got to mention it because it is so cool. It is actually the Hummer, the brand new EV Hummer, the Series 1. What a fantastic vehicle that was to drive. So unique, so many little features they put on that thing. It is massive, 9,000 pounds, but over 1,000 horsepower, and it is incredibly fast for something that big and that heavy. It has all this off-road capability. What a complete vehicle that is. I realize it's an EV, but it is an insane vehicle, and I really enjoyed reviewing the Hummer EV. 1,000 horsepower, but listen to this, listen to the torque. 11,500 pound-feet of torque is that you can raise and lower it as much as 10 inches. You got like this. This thing just feels like an absolute beast. Sometimes you just want to see what the car's capable of, and wow, listen to this thing go. It just rolls, and there is no excuse for something this big to be this capable. It's just ridiculous. Now, the last one on my runner-up list is just my unicorn car, and I never actually got to drive the thing, but I was just so bummed I didn't get to drive it, but I've got to mention it at least in here because it is still my unicorn car that I've never got to drive, but I've been so close several times. It is the Lamborghini Aventador Svj, one of the baddest cars on the planet, at least in my mind. No, it is not the fastest, but rarely can you find anything, to me at least, that looks just so menacing and has such a presence on the road. And unfortunately, TJ crashed his car right before I got a chance to drive it. We were in the car together, and just a very unfortunate situation. But hopefully one day I will get to drive the Svj, and it will definitely make my list. Look at this thing, guys. This is an amazing, amazing car. This is the newest and the best Aventador that they have, and probably the last of the V12 Aventadors. So this makes this car very, very special. Oh my God. And unfortunately, yes, we did in fact hit a hidden curb that was over there. I'm gonna show that to you. But as you can see, unfortunately now, we've got some damage here. So now we can actually jump into my top 5 list. Now I will kind of reiterate, these are in no particular order. You could interchange these any way you want to. It was really hard for me to get down to just 5 cars that I really like the best, but this is what I have for you. My top 5 cars I've ever reviewed for you in 3.5 years. And I want to start out with the C7 Zr1 Corvette. What a fantastic car. I mean, this thing literally looks like a Batmobile. I mean, it is just a really great package that GM and Chevrolet put together on this thing. I mean, you're talking about a car that just breathes fire. 755 horsepower, but it sounds so good. It is so capable. Just the turn in on it is insane. What an amazing car to drive. What an amazing car to look at. Definitely one of my favorites, the C7 Zr1. That's 755 supercharged horsepower. And in my mind, that is still the bad daddy on the block. There's no angle of this car that looks bad. I mean, it is just such an aggressive looking car. And of course, there we go. Boy, once you do tip into it though, oh geez. It decides it wants to go and it is gone. So, there we go. Woo! That is good stuff right there, boy. The next one on my list is one that you may have expected, or perhaps not, but I even tried to buy one of these. It is the Ram TRX. What an amazing machine the Ram TRX is. Definitely my favorite pickup on the road. But when you drive one of these, and keep in mind, I've driven the Trackhawks and the Durango Hellcats and all that kind of stuff. There's just something special about a TRX to be that big, that sounds that good, to be that fast. It's just, what an amazing truck to drive, the Ram TRX. And I just can't go on and on about the TRX. It's just enough. It is amazing. The TRX, I love everything about it. And it's just a very big, very capable, well put together machine. And it is by far one of my favorite trucks I've ever driven. But when you see it in person, it has a little bit more of a presence to it. 702 horsepower out of this beast, and of course 650 pound-feet of torque. You start to realize that this thing is, well, it's pretty special. One of my favorite features of the new Rams is this huge touchscreen here. I'm leaving from a stoplight, and listen to it go. Oh, yes. This is an insane vehicle. Now, the third one on my list is a truly special car. I would absolutely love to own one of these. It's just really too expensive for something that I could realistically afford. But man, what an amazing machine. The Mclaren 720. One that I drove was actually slightly modified to be even faster. But you want to talk about a super light, super responsive, obviously a twin turbo V8 in this car, but man, that is a McLaren 720S. What an incredibly special car, guys. But just look at the side profile of this car. What an incredible machine. This thing only weighs like 3,170 pounds. You can really feel how incredibly special this car is because it feels like driving a go-kart. I'm not gonna lie at all. Like, the turn in on this thing is insanely responsive. I mean, well over 700 to the tire in a car that weighs essentially what a golf cart does. Just listen to this engine. Listen to it. This thing is wild. The fourth one on my list is a car that I just recently got to drive. It is the C8 Corvette, but not just any C8 Corvette. This one was equipped with a Pro Charger sitting right behind my head. This thing sounded insane. What a fun car to drive the C8 already was, but when you strap a Pro Charger to it, man, it makes a world of difference. And just what an amazing machine to listen to drive, to look at. I absolutely love the Pro Charge C8 Corvette. What a great car. This one is a big deal. It is a very special car for a lot of reasons. That is a Pro Charger sitting on top of this beautiful Chevy engine. I'm just idling around. It sounds insane right behind this little window here. It actually reacts a lot quicker than I thought it would. I mean, just listen to it. Oh man. Oh yeah, sounds great. Listen to the downshifts. And for the last one on my list, many of you guys may have kind of saw this one coming, but perhaps not. I reviewed this car for you guys quite some time ago, but I still love it. It is the Camaro, the ZL1 1LE in the manual. Yeah, the 6-speed. That is the one to get for me. What a driver's car. I mean, fantastic in terms of just the way it looks with the big wing, the extra arrow in the front, all the aggression that car brings to the table. The ZL1, just a regular one, already looks great, but this one is extra special. Those spool valve shocks, I mean, it kind of gives it a tight ride, but I love that. Like I said, it is not for everybody, but if you are a true enthusiast, you will absolutely love that spec on that particular car. I certainly do. I would love to own one. Just a very enjoyable car to drive. I've loved it for the longest time, and that rounds out my list. I mean, for the money, I kind of have to admit that the ZL1 1LE package is about as mean as they come. Look at the wing on this 1LE. It is something else. It actually sweeps forward quite a bit. It is sprung tighter than the normal ZL1. It is noticeable. Boy, what a difference. And just feel the way this thing puts the power to the ground. This thing, the shifter's really tight in it. It feels unbelievably composed and just put on the ground in terms of just, look at how quick the turn-in is on this. It is noticeable. You really do feel like you're driving a weapon when you're in this car, and I'm really enjoying driving it. It's just a ton of fun to drive it, and you can see it's putting a smile on my face. This is really making me miss a manual car. And that does it for my top 5 cars that I've ever had a chance to review for you guys. It was so hard to put just 5 on there, but I thought that was the right thing to do. Lots of honorable mentions out there as well. Which car did you guys enjoy the most that I reviewed? Which one would you take? Let me know in the comments down below. Once again, happy Memorial Day to everybody out there, and I will catch you on the next one. So until then, Racerx.